Good day, learners. Good day, learner. I am Abayomi Adeyinka. I am to take you GNS 204 titled Introduction to Entrepreneurship Skills. And joining me to take the subsequent study sessions are Professor M.A. Oladoja and Dr. T.P. Olusanya. Introduction. Introduction to Entrepreneurship Skills is a 2-unit course for students studying towards acquiring bachelor's degree of Olabisi Onabanjo University. The course is divided into 7 study sessions. It will first introduce the general overview of entrepreneurship and skills acquisition. Thereafter, the course will focus on crop production and farm practices, including fruits and tree crops, horticulture, and landscape skills. Also, animal production skills and practices on poultry, piggery, sheep and goats husbandry techniques, as well as fish farming, aquaculture, tie and dye production techniques will be introduced to the students during the course. Crop production practices. There is undoubtedly a growing need for entrepreneurial education as a basic skill in the Nigerian educational system. Integration of entrepreneurial studies into university education will prepare the youths to be responsible, enterprising individuals who will become entrepreneurs and contribute to economic development and sustainable economic development. Entrepreneurship is a veritable tool in solving the ever-growing unemployment confronting the Nigerian government. The main goal of entrepreneurship is to empower graduates irrespective of their area of specialization with skills that will enable them engage in income-yielding ventures, whether they are gainfully employed or unable to secure paid jobs. It is a reorientation from the take a job mentality to make a job mentality. It's a practical approach in becoming your own boss. Entrepreneurship is very crucial in development of economies globally. It initiates and constitutes positive economic change in the structure of business and society. Entrepreneurship increases the growth and per capita output income and stimulates innovation. Investment is enhanced through entrepreneurship, thereby creating new capital for capacity building. Where entrepreneurship is promoted, unemployment is drastically reduced. Entrepreneurs must possess various skills and know-how to be able to succeed. One major area of our focus is on the agricultural sector of the economy, especially crop and animal production, and how people can be empowered through self-help without losing out in the economy of the country. Agriculture is expected to play 5 main roles for sustainable development of every agrarian economy. The first and perhaps the most crucial of these roles is the supply of food, which is expected to be available to people in adequate quantity and quality at affordable prices. Other roles include supply of raw materials for domestic agro-industrial manufacturing, generation of incomes for farming households, and generation of foreign exchange through export of agricultural commodities. In view of the aforementioned on entrepreneurship skills, this section will focus on crop production skills in agriculture. What are crops? Crops are plants which have been identified, domesticated, and cultivated by man for various uses, including food. Crops range from those which require elaborate and expensive production processing methods to the basic crops, which are widely grown by small-scale farmers. Principles of crop production, techniques and cultural practices. These are the practical cultivation procedure, techniques and cultural practices involved in crop production ventures. The techniques and cultural practices generally cut across arable crops, tree or fruit crops, and horticulture or ornamental production. However, there are specific techniques and cultural practices involved in certain crops production. The principles of crop production, therefore, are all the activities carried out on the farm before, during, and after planting of crops or seed or seedling, tillage or tilling, This involves opening up of the soil for seed planting. This can be done with simple farm tools like hoe or such as the Indian hoe or on a small scale farm. Or it could be done mechanically by using a tractor-driven disc plow or harrow on a commercial large-scale farms. In mechanized tillage, the field is plowed to break up the soil and harrowed to break up large clots of soil resulting from the plowing before ridge or beds can be made if necessary. This term is pulverization. This is also termed pulverization. Planting material. This may be seed or seedlings for transplanting to the field from the nursery. Good stocks of planting materials are basic to the profitable crop production. The seeds of planting materials largely determine the quality and quantity of the harvested produce. The advantages of using good stocks of planting materials include, but are not limited to: 1. Reduced cost of cleaning, standardization, and disinfection. 2. Uniform germination, thus eliminating replanting or supplying of missing stands. 3. Vigorous seedling growth, which reduces weed and disease damages. 4. Uniform growth rate and maturity of farm produce. Seed testing, viability test. This is a test that is carried out to ascertain the germination ability of seeds of a crop. It is done to determine how viable the seeds are for germination, and this could be done through floating method, seed exposure method, and the laboratory test method, which could be both indoor and outdoor. Planting pattern. This involves the arrangement of a crop on a piece of land. Among the planting patterns in use are broadcasting, planting at stake, and drilling. Drilling is a method for planting small seeded crops, and in practice, shallow furrows are made for the seeds. Seed rate. Seed rate is the amount or quantity of materials to be placed in a specific area of land. It is usually calculated per acre or hectare. However, it should be noted that 1 acre of land measures 100 meters by 40 meters in length and breadth, which approximately measures 4,000 meters squared, and 2.5 acres equals to 1 hectare of land or 10,000 meters squared. Spacing and plant population. This is the spatial allowance allotted to each stand of a crop to exploit for all its needs. Adequate spacing of crops is important for good yield. Spacing of crops optimally reduces plants' competition for sunlight, moisture, air, and nutrients. The ultimate yield from a unit land area is contributed to by all the plants growing on it. Excessively wide or narrow spacing leads to reduction in yield. In maize, for instance, narrow spacing leads to low yield because of barren stands. The exact spacing for any crop, however, depends on soil productivity, location, and time of planting. It is important to note the following terms that has to do with planting, with spacing and plant population. The first one is interspacing. Interspacing is the space between one ridge or line and another ridge or line. Intraspacing is the space between one spot and the next spot on the same ridge or line. Intraspacing is definitely the space between one crop spot and another crop spot or stand on the same ridge or on the same line. Supply. There is the act of replacing ungerminated seed or dead germinated seeds by replanting in the particular spot or area where germination did not occur or where the germinated seeds are dead. Thinning. This is the act of reducing the number of plants per stand. It may be due to overcrowding or many seeds planted together in a particular given spot or area. The less vigorous and excess plants above the required plant density per stand should be removed at early stage. However, this must be done not later than 4 weeks after germination or sprouting. Weeds. A weed is a plant growing out of place, that is, a plant growing where it is not needed. Weeds are best controlled before they produce seeds. Therefore, weeding is the act of removing unwanted plants where they are not required. Removal of weed is either by hand or by mechanical means through the use of herbicides, which are weed killers. They are generally applied as suspension in water through spraying. Weeds reduce the yield of crops. They harbor plant diseases and pests. They compete with plants for sunlight, water, nutrients, and feeding space, thereby reducing the income of the farmers. Mulching. It is the act of covering the soil with dead organic matters, which may be of plant and animal origin. It is used to conserve moisture in the soil. It inhibits the growth of weeds and adds to soil fertility. Fertilizer and fertilizer application. Fertilizer is any substance that contains one or more recognized plant nutrients needed for plant growth. These are inorganic or organic materials. They are applied to replenish nutrients removed from the soil by the crops or that are lost through leaching, or nutrients that are fixed or immobilized by microorganisms to increase crop yield and consequently improve crop quality. Insecticides and insecticide application. Insecticides are selective poisons which lethal action or effect is partly greater on insects than on any other forms of life. Insecticides may be applied on the field and stored produce if and when necessary against insect infestation or attacks. Generally, insecticides are the first line of defense in insect pest outbreak because they are usually very effective and generally act within a short period of time. Harvesting, weighing, and storage. It is the deliberate act of removing the desired mature material, part or planted material part or planted or part or whole plant of cultivated crop from the fields through plucking, cutting, and uprooting with the aid of knife, sickle, hand, hoe, cutlass, and hoe, as well as mechanization or through mechanical devices. It should be noted that yam is harvested through digging the soil with cutlass and hoe. Maize is harvested by using the hand and cutlass. Rice is harvested by cutting with knife or sickle. Okra is harvested through plucking with hand or using knife. However, it should be noted that for some of these crops, especially maize and rice, they are now harvested mechanically using machineries. Weighing is very necessary in order to determine the yield of the crops. When the useful plants reach maturity, crops are ready for harvesting. Maturity may not be easy to determine in all crops, but it is usually related to the age of the crop. As a general guide, a crop is considered to have matured when the harvestable parts have accumulated maximum dry matter. This is at the point the harvestable part ceases to increase in size. Maturity may be accompanied by color changes in grains. Maturity is associated with reduction in moisture content. Harvesting. Harvesting of matured fruit ensures maximum yield. Delayed harvesting is sometimes advisable, particularly in grain crops, where it may be necessary to facilitate handling and storage. In fruits and leaf crops, high moisture content is preferred. The time of harvesting, however, depends on characteristics and quality requirements of a crop. Although root and tuber crops store better in the soil, they depreciate in quality when harvesting is delayed. For example, cassava roots may become too fibrous in dry soils, or they may rot easily in very wet soils after maturity. Storage. This is the art of keeping and preserving harvested farm produce or materials. The storage of food crops in the tropics is a problem during the humid months, particularly when here humidity is high for an extended period. Insect pests of various kinds are frequently present and can cause serious losses during storage. Nursery. A nursery is a specially prepared portion in which young plants are reared before being transplanted to the field. The young plants are raised under intensive care prior to transplanting to the field. Although many crop plants can be and are directly sown at stake on the field, especially maize, cucumber, okra, cowpeas, yams, etc. Many vegetables such as amaranthus, copperas, oleifera, and some seedlings of other crops, especially cocoa, cola, coffee, are better raised in the nursery and transplanted to the field later. For instance, it is difficult to sow tomato seeds at stake at the rate of 1 seed per stand, while it is very convenient to transplant seedlings at 1 plant per stand. Types of nurseries. There are 3 types of nurseries, and these are peasant nursery, temporary nursery, standard nursery. A nursery can be established at any site that is relatively flat as long as there is 1. Permanent supply of water, 2. Nearness to planting site, 3. Fertile soil with good drainage system, 4. A source of permanent windbreak, 5. Nearness to market, and also availability of labor. Yield. In arable crops, there is a high level of diversity in the useness of the crops. Yield therefore refers to the quantity of produce obtained per unit area of land over a period of time from a given crop that is planted. In some crops, nearly the entire plant is utilized, while in others, only part of the crop, such as the fruits or seeds, are needed and utilized. Many crops are grown for their seed, in which case flowering and seed formation are of primary concern. The required produce may be stored nutrients such as the oil and protein in seeds, carbohydrates in yam or cassava, and fiber associated with the stem, leaf, or fruit, as in kenaf or sisal hemp. From the foregoing, it could be found that the yield determination and associated factors varies considerably from one crop to another, and the common criterion for assessing productivity of crops is yield of the desired crop. Handling of harvested products and drying. Agricultural produce may be directly consumed or sold after harvesting, or it may be treated in some way, processed to facilitate transportation and storage. Drying is the method by which the moisture content of the crop is removed or reduced considerably to prevent spoilage. Crops are dried in order to prevent germination of seeds, e.g. grain crops. 2. To retain maximum quality in the grain or forage by preventing deterioration. 3. To reduce moisture content in order to prevent insect attack and microbial infestation. 4. To process the crops, e.g. in terms of shelling of maize, removal of the grains from the cobs, arable crops production. Cultivated Arable crops are classified in many ways, and although there is no standard system, all methods are fairly well understood and used in crop science. Classification according to duration of growth. Duration of growth is classified into annuals, biennials, and perennials, depending on their life cycle. Annuals. These are crops which survive for only one season. They germinate, grow to maturity, flower, produce seed, and die within 1 year. Most food crops are annual crops, but a few export or industrial crops also fall into this category. Examples are maize, wheat, barley, rice, millet, sorghum, cowpea, groundnut, yams, and most vegetables. Biennial crops. These are crops which require 2 seasons of growth to reach maturity. Vegetative growth takes place during the first year, while growth in the second year is mainly concerned with the manufacture and storage of food, flowering, and fruiting. Examples are cassava, cocoyam, which grows in most parts of West Africa. Perennial crops. These are crops which live for more than 2 seasons. Most perennial crops produce only vegetative growth during the first year. Flowering does not occur until vegetative phase of growth has reached maturity. Once perennial crops begin to flower, they produce flowers each season. Herbaceous perennials, wood perennials, oil palm, and cocoa normally flower in the second year of growth. Other examples are pawpaw and pigeon pea. Classification of crops according to uses. Arable crops can be grouped according to their uses, and these are as follows. Cereal crops. These belong to the family known as Gramineae, and they are cultivated mainly for their seeds. Cereals are by far the most important source of the world's food supply. Examples are maize, rice, sorghum, millet, wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Legumes. Legumes or pulse crops. These are commonly grown legumes are cowpeas, soybean, groundnut, pigeon pea, and bambara nut, as well as lima bean. Root and tuber crops. These are crops whose roots are underground and store carbohydrates, e.g., cassava, yam, sweet potato, and Irish potato. Fruit crops. Fruit crops are those whose fruits are consumed directly, and they supply mineral salt and vitamins. Examples of which include bananas, pawpaw, pineapple, avocado pear, citrus, plantain, guava, apples, etc. Spice crops. These are crops which provide flavor or hard taste to food. Many also have medicinal properties. Important crops in this category are ginger, pepper, garlic, and onion. They are also grown by small-scale farmers for both local consumption and export benefits. Oil crops. These are crops which produce oil and are excellent as fat and vitamin sources. Examples of which include groundnut, melon, sunflower, coconut, castor, sesame, etc. Fiber crops. Fiber crops are crops that are used industrially for making clothing materials, ropes, carpets, and cotton materials. Examples of which we have cotton, we have jute, and sisal hemp. Vegetable crops. These are crops which leaves or fruits are consumed and they provide mineral salts and vitamins. Examples of these include tomatoes, onions, okra, amaranthus, celosia, solanum, and garden egg. It should be noted, however, that the bulk of the world's food is supplied through rice, maize, wheat, sorghum, potato, sugarcane, yam, sweet potato, cassava, beans, soya bean, groundnut, banana, apart from other tree crops like oil palm and coconut. There are many plant species or crops which contribute complementary food items such as fruits, vegetables, spices, flavor, and condiments. Some crops are, however, specially grown to provide food for farm animals, while others are used for recreational sites, ornamental landscaping, and aesthetics. Basic data on some commonly grown arable crops in Nigeria. These will be treated under the following heads. The crops are listed, the seed rate, the spacing, the method of propagation, and the yield. Cassava. Seed rate is between 10,000 and 13,000 cuttings, stem cuttings of 25 to 30 centimeters in length. The spacing required is 1 meter by 1 meter for sole cassava, and for mixed cropping, it is between 80 centimeters and 180 centimeters by 100 centimeters. That is 0.8 meters by 1 meter. Method of propagation. Cassava is propagated through stem cuttings. The yield at the end of the day is between 8 to 20 tons per hectare of land. For yam, 2 to 5 tons is the seed rate per hectare of land. Spacing is 1 meter by 1 meter. Method of propagation is by tuber or yam set or yam seed. The yield, expected yield, is between 10 to 20 tons per hectare. Cocoyam, 2 to 3 tons per hectare is the seed rate. The spacing is 1 meter by 1 meter or 90 centimeters by 90 centimeters, that is 0.9 meter by 0.9 meter. Then the method of propagation, planting material, is the culms, the rhizomes that are used in propagating cocoyam. And expected yield is between 4 and 6 tons per hectare. Sweet potatoes, the vines, seed rate cannot be defined because the vines are used. The vines are used. Then the spacing is 1 meter by 1 meter, and for the planting, the method of propagation, it is propagated or planted through the vines, the tubers, or the slips. The yield is between 3 to 10 tons per hectare. Maize, seed rate 15 kilograms to 20 kilograms per hectare. Spacing 30 centimeters by 90 centimeters along the line, 50 centimeters by 75 centimeters, 60 centimeters by 90 centimeters. Method of propagation, it is planted or propagated through seed. The yield is between 1.5 to 3 tons per hectare. The rice now. Rice, we have the seed rate is 50 kilograms per hectare. Spacing is 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters or 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters. It is propagated through seed. The yield is 1 to 2 tons per hectare for upland rice, and it is 2 to 4 tons per hectare for swamp rice. Guinea corn, 20 kilograms per hectare is the seed rate. Spacing is 75 cm by 100 cm. It is propagated by seed. The yield is 1 to 2.5 tons per hectare. Soya beans, 50 to 60 kilograms per hectare is the seed rate. 5 centimeters by 50 centimeters is the spacing, or it is drilled. It is propagated through seed. Yield is between 1.5 to 3 tons per hectare. Cowpea, seed rate is 25 to 30 kilograms. Spacing is 30 centimeters by 60 centimeters, propagated by seed as well. And the yield is between 0.8 ton to 1 ton per hectare. Food crops production. Food crops are trees or shrubs planted by farmers primarily for their edible fruits. Fruit trees have high potentials to improve productivity and sustainability of agroforestry systems in Nigeria by addressing issues of food security, income, and environmental protection. Some of the fruit trees include mango, cashew, pawpaw, guava, coconut, grapefruit, sweet orange, shea butter, bitter kola, and star apple. Tree and permanent crops production. Tree crops are those crops that remain on the field for many years and are therefore sometimes referred to as permanent crops. Tree crops are economically important for a number of reasons. They serve as foreign exchange earners, they provide food for man, and they are also used for domestic animals after oil has been extracted from some of them, especially palm kernel cake, especially extraction of palm kernel cake from oil palm. Classification of tree crops. Tree crops are classified into 3 categories based on their commercial importance, and these are: 1. Beverage or stimulant crops, 2. Oil crops, 3. Latex crops. The beverage and stimulant crops are those used in preparing food drinks, and examples are cocoa, coffee, cola, etc. Oil crops, these are crops that produce oil. Examples are palm oil, oil palm, cashew, coconut, and shea butter tree. Latex crops, this primarily is the crop that is primarily a latex producing crop is rubber tree, also known as Hevea brasiliensis. Propagation of permanent crops. Permanent crops can be classified into 5 groups in accordance with the way they are propagated. Group A, crop in this category can be propagated by seeds or vegetative means, that is, through cutting, grafting, and budding. Some of them here include cocoa, cola, cashew, avocado pear, and guava. Group B, these are crops that are propagated from seeds which are difficult to germinate. Special techniques are needed before germination. Seeds of this group are not easily subjected to vegetative propagation. Examples here include oil palm, coconut. Examples here include oil palm, coconut, and coconut. Group C, these are permanent crops that are propagated through vegetative means, which could be through suckers, slips, crown, stem cuttings, and very rarely by seed except in breeding. Examples here include plantain, banana, pineapple, and sugarcane. Those in Group D category are propagated by seeds or vegetative means, that is, through cutting, grafting, and budding. Examples here include sweet orange, lime, lemon, king orange, grapefruit, shaddock, sweet lime, tangerine, mandarin, etc. However, it should be noted that Tangelo is an interspecific hybrid between Citrus parasidae and Citrus reticulata. Group E. The cultivation of crops in this group or category is not yet widespread in the country. Breadfruit, seedless, bread nuts, sweet sop, sour sop. Basic data on some commonly grown crops in Nigeria. Name. This will be treated under the following heads: the name of the crop, the method of propagation, the average age at first fruiting, and recommended spacing. Cola. Cocoa is the first one there. Cocoa is propagated through seed or vegetative means. Age at first fruiting is 3 to 4 years. Spacing is 3 meters by 1 meters. Kola nitida by seed or rooting system. 4 to 5 years is age at first fruiting. Spacing recommended is 6 meters by 6 meters. Kola acuminata, that is the kola that has. The next one there is cashew. The next one there is cashew, which is propagated by seed. Average age at first fruiting is 3 to 4 years. Spacing is 9 meter by 9 meter. Oil palm by seed as well. Age at first fruiting is 3 to 4 years. Spacing 9 meter by 9 meter triangular or 8 meter by 8 meter square. Mango is propagated by seed, and it could be propagated vegetatively through patch budding or grafting. Age at first fruiting is 3 to 4 years. Spacing is 10 meters by 10 meters. Horticulture and ornamental production. Horticulture is divided into 3 divisions, which include pomology, which is production of fruits, horticulture, production of vegetables, and floriculture, production of flowers and ornamentals, including landscaping. Classification of horticultural crops and plants. Besides the scientific botanical method of classification based on genetic relationship, which is universally used in identifying plants, horticultural plants are also classified according to their life cycle, growth habit, and more commonly according to use. Vegetable crops. They include salad vegetable, which could be lettuce, cucumber, or eggplant. Leafy vegetables, amaranthus, telfaria, talayanum, cocorus, mint leaves, celosia argentea, solanum, macrocarpon, etc. Fruit vegetables include pumpkin, okra, tomatoes, and peppers. Vegetable legumes. These include cowpea and winged beans. Bulb vegetables. We have onions, we have shallot, we have leek, and garlic. Recommended spacing for some West African vegetables. This will be treated under this heading: name of the vegetable, recommended spacing, and the products that are used in propagating them. Watermelon, or the products recommended spacing for some West African vegetables. This will be treated under the following: the name of the vegetable, the recommended spacing, and the parts of the products, the produce that are used. Watermelon, spacing 1 meter by 1 meter or 2 meters by 1 meter. Parts used, the fruits. Okra, 1 meter by 1 meter or 0.45 meters by 0.6 meters. Part used is equally the fruits. Eggplant, 1 meter by 1 meter. The fruit is the part that is used. Tomatoes, 1 meter by 1 meter is the recommended spacing, and the fruit of the plant is the parts that are used. It should be noted, however, that some vegetables are planted by broadcasting and drilling method, most especially vegetables such as tete, amaranthus, ewedu, cocorus olitorius, and choco, celosia argentea, etc. Vegetable production fadama. Fadama is dry or partially dry season vegetable production or farming by the stream or river or through artificial provision of water. Fadama cropping is temporary but seasonal. Fadama cropping is common in the savanna and Sahel zones, and vegetable production is the main crop enterprise of Fadama. Directly sown vegetables are tete, choco, ewedu, and tete is amaranthus species, choco is celosia argentea, ewedu is cocorus olitorius. Nursery sown vegetables are igba, solanum macrocarpon, tomatoes, lycopersicum species, etc. It should be noted that crops are sown at the commencement of dry season and harvested before the commencement of succeeding rainy season in Fadama production. The Fadama is followed during the rainy season until the commencement of the next dry season. The period of fallow include later part of the dry season and the succeeding rainy season. The Fadama is flooded during the rainy season, and the flood water deposited considerable amount of nutrients into the Fadama soils, thus making requirements for fertilization or fertilizer application minimal in Fadama cropping or farming. Vegetable gardening can also be a rewarding hobby or viable full-time occupation. It requires smaller land area than field or plantation crops and much less capital investment. In conclusion, we have gone through the general principle of crop husbandry, techniques, and cultural practices as related to arable crops, fruit and tree crops in this session. We have also discussed horticulture and ornamental production venture, including opportunities available to individuals arising from the economic importance of these crops. However, you can also go into the confusion of any of the crops. These crops can help provide the job opportunity you need, help raise your standard of living, and help the country's economic growth. Conclusion. Entrepreneurship involves creating something new of value, being creative and innovative by assuming risk for the purpose of achieving specific goals. It's a process aimed at achieving personal economic freedom. Its meaning transcends the coordination of all factors of production or one-man business. It is a propeller of national growth and development. To be a successful entrepreneur, one must acquire appropriate education and skills to survive in an uncertain and turbulent business environment such as ours.